A wedding so big it rewired a city, and a rumor so loud it tried to rewrite the marriage. In late June, the richest wedding on earth energy took over Venice. Cameras locked in. And within days, the internet swore there was a sealed $5 billion legal bomb waiting to go off. Which part was real? And which part was pure myth engineered for clicks? Today, we pull apart the velvet rope and the viral storylines to see what actually happened and what the rumor mill wants you to believe. It wasn't a whisper-level event. It was a 3-day takeover centered on the island of San Giorgio Maggiore. Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez, motorboats slicing the Grand Canal, couture on speed dial, the kind of visual overload that feeds every feed. People confirmed the ceremony on June 27th, 2025. Reuters clocked the couple leaving the Aman and heading to the vows with a media flotilla in tow. It was spectacle by design, and that matters for everything that came next. But that wasn't the whole story. If you want billionaire myths separated from receipts, tap subscribe and ring the bell. It tells the algorithm to send you the next chapter first. Hit like, so this reaches more people who only saw the glossy clips. Now, let's talk about the part no invite mentioned, the pushback. It didn't feel like a wedding. It felt like a takeover. The lagoon turned into a living postcard, and every angle looked pre-edited for the Explore page. Boats skimmed past stone facades that have outlived empires, and flashbulbs chased their reflections across the water. San Giorgio Maggiore sat in the middle like a stage. Morning light hit the bell tower. By afternoon, it was all mirrored sunglasses, hushed phone calls, and security earpieces blending into the scenery. The line between event and exhibition blurred fast. Everything whispered exclusivity. Invites with embossed crests, cars shuttling guests in quiet convoys, tailors on standby like medics. Even the rumor of a seating chart felt like currency. The city is used to premieres and biennales, but this had a different temperature. 1 part society page, 1 part launch. You could read the mood by the shoes. Polished loafers on slick stone. Stiletto tips hovering over gaps in centuries-old pavement. Aesthetic decisions traveled like gossip. The dress codes, the silhouettes, the stagecraft. It wasn't minimalism. It was maximal control. Security moved like choreography. Bridges monitored. Docks cleared. Private guards mixing with municipal patrols, so smoothly that you couldn't tell who was private and who wore the city's badge. The message was simple. This is happening, keep moving. The city itself supplied B-roll with zero effort. Gondolas drifted through frames like extras, and distant bells gave every clip an instant score. Even the wind seemed to coordinate, a breeze that lifted veils and hair at just the right time. The setting did half the work, the cameras did the rest. Whispers travel faster than boats. Who landed where? Which museum opened a side door? Which palazzo hosted a quiet afterroom with the kind of views you can't buy, only borrow? The map of Venice split in two, the one in tourist guides and the one inked temporarily by this one event. It was spectacle with purpose, not chaos, not excess for its own sake. Every step seemed planned 3 moves out, the way you plan a product reveal. Tease, reveal, sustain. By the time the vows happened, the internet felt like it had already seen a trailer, and the premiere was just confirmation. But the city isn't an empty set. It has a voice. That voice got louder as the weekend went on, and it didn't speak in hashtags. And the pushback nobody saw on the invite arrived, right on cue. Venice doesn't shout. It echoes. When locals gathered, the sound bounced off brick and water until a chant became a chorus. It wasn't about one couple. It was about a familiar pressure. Too many events asking too much from a place that's already carrying more than it should. The sign said what the postcards never do. Homes turned into rentals. Streets turned into pipelines. Bridges turned into bottlenecks. A wedding this big became a symbol, not because of who stood at the altar, but because of what it asked the city to absorb. Logistics bent around the tension. Plans adjusted. Some venues shifted. A route that made sense on paper suddenly needed a second, quieter route in practice. The city's muscle memory kicked in. Reroute, secure, proceed. If you blinked, you missed it. If you lived there, you felt every detour. It wasn't rage, it was resistance. Venice is small, ancient, and fragile. Every extra footprint matters. And here was a weekend that didn't just bring guests, it brought satellites, media crews, handlers, vendors, drivers, watchers. The gravitational pull grew and grew. This is why the images felt split. One camera found couture and candlelight and water that looks like glass. Another camera found banners and patience running thin. Two realities sharing a street, separated by velvet ropes and police tape and centuries of civic pride. Power always looks different up close. Up close, you can count the security badges. Up close, you can see the faces of people who work the docks and the bars and the museums, trying to thread the needle between hospitality and exhaustion. They can be welcoming and weary at the same time. None of this stopped the wedding. None of it tried to. It was a statement. You are guests here, even if you are gods everywhere else. The city made room because it always does, but it left a message on the table. The room is not infinite. And that message didn't stay local. It traveled alongside the glossy clips and romantic captions. Protest images tacked themselves to the luxury content like disclaimers. Anyone scrolling got both versions whether they wanted to or not. That's the paradox that fed the timeline. The party looked unstoppable, and the pushback looked immovable. Viewers love tension with clear sides. Creators love tension with clear thumbnails. The drumbeat started. And once spectacle meets a hungry algorithm, the story stops being yours. Start with paperwork. After a historic settlement years ago, anyone paying attention assumed a prenup would be part of the plan this time. That's common sense at this level. But posts claiming a 200-page dossier packed with hyper-specific behavioral triggers, automatic penalties, or social media gags read like fan fiction unless the document itself appears. The reality is simple. A prenup likely exists because that's standard. The exact terms? Not public. Everything else is just gravity assist for a good story. Meanwhile, there is real courtroom paper with the Sanchez name on it, just not the kind the rumor promises. Start with the obvious. At this level, a prenup isn't a plot twist. It's a seatbelt. You put it on because you've seen the crash videos. You hope you never test it. You still buckle up. People imagine prenups as one size fits all. They aren't. They're bespoke, tailored as tightly as the dress. They cover assets, yes, but also timing, disclosures, tax exposure, future ventures, and the dull but critical work of separating personal from corporate gravity. What gets the internet buzzing are alleged behavior clauses, the kind that feel cinematic. Don't do this, don't post that, don't monetize a last name. Do those exist anywhere? Sometimes. Do we know what's in this one? No. That's the difference between pattern and proof. Why the secrecy? Because privacy is the point. A prenup is a private contract, not a public trophy. The parties choose what to reveal, if anything. Absent that, outsiders build imagined tables of contents from prior cases and bedtime stories about billionaire control. Here's what we can say without pretending to have the document. A rational plan would aim to fence off pre-existing wealth, clarify what happens to anything created during the marriage, and establish a process for resolving disagreements without turning every argument into litigation that lands on the front page. Could there be provisions about public image? There could. Not because of vanity, but because brand value is measurable and reputational risk costs real money. Clauses that require alignment on major media moves are not unheard of when one partner sits at the center of multiple companies and philanthropic initiatives. Could there be triggers tied to trust or conduct? Also possible. Contracts can link outcomes to actions. The thing that matters is not whether a random social post breaks a clause. It's whether the agreement defines and proves a breach. Real contracts are written to survive court scrutiny, not YouTube commentary. The internet's favorite move is to take a plausible concept and turn it into courtroom fan fiction. A 200-page Leviathan with punishments for every slight, each one conveniently matching the latest rumor. It's compelling. It's also convenient. In the absence of the document, imagination fills the margins. There's a simpler explanation for the silence. The people involved have lawyers who prefer documents to dialogue. They don't leak because leaks reduce leverage. They don't perform because performances complicate negotiations. They write, they sign, they file when needed. That's it. which leaves you with a clean division. On one side, a private agreement that almost certainly exists and says things the public won't see unless something goes very wrong. On the other, a rumor that insists it already knows and that the number is staggering and that the hammer has already dropped. If you're going to pick a side, pick the one that can produce paper. Until then, the smartest posture is curiosity without certainty. A prenup may be strict, generous, ordinary, or inventive. What it isn't, until proven otherwise, is content. And while the myth grows louder, the verified legal threads tell a different, less cinematic story. In 2024, former yoga instructor Alana Zabel accused Lauren Sanchez of stealing the idea for a children's book. She sent cease and desist letters and later filed suit, claiming Sanchez is the fly who flew to space mirrored her concept. That's an allegation, not a verdict, but it's an actual case with a real plaintiff, and it adds friction to the fairy tale narrative. It's also proof that when genuine controversy exists, it's usually granular and procedural, not cinematic. So why would the $5 billion story fly while the real cases crawl? Platforms reward extremes. Euro 40M wedding and Venetian protests is big. $5B divorce is bigger. One is complex and sourced, the other is simple and thrilling. Throw in AI voiceovers, recycled B-roll, and that heavy breathing tone, and you get a rumor that feels true enough to trend. But ask basic questions: where's the docket? Where's the mainstream reporting? And the story collapses. The verified narrative is less explosive, but more interesting. A city reshaped for a weekend, a couple navigating real but separate legal fights, and a public hungry for a twist that might never come. Still, there's one more layer people miss. Even after the boats left and the banners came down, the image machine kept humming. People ran newlywed coverage. Vogue framed couture and fittings as pop culture artifacts. Protesters framed the event as a referendum on wealth and public space. That tug of war, glamour versus grievance, is the real context for everything that follows. If another filing pops up in the Michael Sanchez case, or new motions land in the book suit, they'll be interpreted through that same lens. Are the powerful playing by different rules, or do the rules simply look different from a distance? And that's the question that keeps viewers hooked long after the last confetti hit the canal. So no, there's no credible evidence of a $5 billion secret divorce war. There's a very public wedding with a very real backlash, a prudent but private prenup, an ongoing clash with a brother over words and money, and a separate lawsuit about a children's book. The internet loves a plot twist that vaporizes the fairy tale. Reality gives you something trickier. Reputations built in the open, narratives spun in the dark, and an audience deciding which version to believe. If you want the truth, follow the filings, not the views. Who do you think's going to be the next person in the limelight? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get the latest celebrity news and updates. I'll see y'all on the next one.